YouTube. I know you're just dying for another Sex in the Watchtower video, and how could I disappoint you? Okay, so today's video is more of the same. Really kind of raunchy. Get ready. Not safe for work, guys. Put on your headphones. In case you thought that the kind of gratuitous sexual discussion that we've been showing you in this video series only happened in articles specifically about sex, here's a new one for you. From the Watchtower in 1980, it was called The Book of Proverbs, Abundant Wisdom in a Few Words. Those who engage in immoral sex acts often come to poverty. Oh my! Persons who seek sexual pleasure with a woman prostitute or who otherwise practice fornication may pay also with loss of health as they succumb to painful and crippling venereal diseases. Can someone explain to me how exactly poverty and sex acts are related? I mean, really, I think I need to see some statistics on this. I do, because I suspect bullshit. And why specifically did they say a woman prostitute? I mean, wouldn't a male prostitute be just as bad? And I mean, there are things you can do to reduce the chances that you'll get VD, so the danger is even greater when an individual seeks intimacies with someone else's marriage mate. An adulteress endangers the precious soul or life of her illicit partner. Oh. So how do they figure that the danger of getting a venereal disease is greater when messing around with a married person? And why is it always a woman? Men carry STDs too, you misogynist bastards. I mean, this just boggles the mind. In fact, think about the way that they portray worldly women in their publications altogether. I mean, it always looks something like this, doesn't it? Sluts. There's another slut. More sluts. And now, for something completely different, we're going to move on to another article in 1980, but this one is from The Awake, in that lovely Watching the World section in the back. A book titled The Sex Atlas, produced by an official publishing arm of the Episcopal Church, is being sharply criticized by two Episcopal priests who feel that it seems to be an apology for any aberrant sexuality. My! Okay, I was just flat out not believing this. I looked it up. The book was published in 1978 by Seabury Press, which was affiliated with the Episcopal Church. And I'm not really sure how that happened, but I'm sure there's got to be a very interesting story there. Anyway, what I want to know is how the Jehovah's Witness writers found out and how many times they read the Sex Atlas before they wrote this piece. Among other things, they point to passages in the book that seem to minimize child molestation and sex with animals. The book says that molested children may be more disturbed by adult hysteria about a gentle and friendly child molester than by the molestation itself. Actually, guys, no child molestation is a good thing, okay? But adult responses can indeed be more frightening to a victim than the actual event itself. I happen to know that from personal experience. And this is in no way excusing any act of molestation whatsoever. I'm just saying that there is definitely a wrong way to respond, and the Jehovah's Witnesses are experts at it. For example, being told by elders that you have known all your life and who you respect that you ask to be molested because you are pretty, and that you have to work very hard in order for Jehovah to forgive you for that, even though he made you pretty, so it's kind of his fault. And that you are, in fact, at the age of 7, in danger of dying at Armageddon now because you've been molested is just insane. Also, it predicts that in the future, our society will be much less preoccupied with sexual contact between humans and animals. After all, as long as the animal is not hurt or mistreated, there is no need for social interference. Apparently, this religious publishing house does not consider God's opinion on such matters to be relevant. Now, I haven't read the Sex Atlas, but now I want to pick it up just to see exactly how badly it was misrepresented here. I mean, having read the creation book a few times, and later also reading the source material, particularly quotes from Carl Sagan, I have to say that I take pretty much everything Watchtower quotes from anywhere with a chunk of salt about the size of one of those woo-woo lamps. I kind of have a hard time believing that the Episcopal Church was attempting to normalize child molestation or bestiality here. I mean, seriously, that would be a really shitty PR move for one thing. Or maybe they published the book without reading it first, which I highly doubt, but hey, who knows? Also in 1980, we had this gem from the Awake magazine called Sex and Your Health. In The Western Way of Death, British pathologist Dr. Malcolm Carruthers comments on the role of sex in connection with heart attacks. He observes that the two-timing adulterer is constantly trying and failing to be in two places at once and is likely to end up as the rope in an emotional tug-of-war between two dissatisfied women. Dear Penthouse. That poor, pitiful little man. I love how all of their examples like this are these stereotypical caricatures. I'm sorry. If my husband is messing around on the side and I find out about it, there's not going to be any emotional tug of war. He doesn't get to be a rope. Because you know what? Not all women are weepy, hysterical harpies. Some of us would just say, "Bye, motherfucker." And occasionally, the other woman may not actually know this jackass is married. And when she finds out, she might be the one saying, "Bye, motherfucker." Or, even better, maybe she tells his wife and both of them take off together. It's happened. The intense effort and excitement of sampling forbidden fruit rather than the homegrown variety exposes the man to the danger of a coronary attack. Bye, Felipe. Many men have died of heart attacks that struck them during acts of adultery. Dr. Carruthers contrasts this with the potential physical benefits of sex relations with one's marriage mate. I'm sure that is exactly what this doctor was trying to say. Because you know the term marriage mate is not generally used by anyone besides Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, I am definitely not advocating for adultery here because I think it's a really shitty thing to do. But I would like to point out that according to these articles, Jehovah's Witnesses think that people who have sex outside marriage have the wrong kind of sex during marriage, or who masturbate are subject to turning gay, pursuing a life of prostitution, catching VD, or being abandoned and unloved, and now also apparently experiencing spontaneous heart failure. Right. So you see here the message is all the same. Sex is bad, and obey us or die. Or you might wish you were dead. Our next article is from the Watchtower in 1982. It's from a feature they had called Insight on the News. Sexual immorality and depravity continue to reach new lows. Now, some sexologists are saying that very young children should be allowed to have sexual relations, including relations with adults. Wait, who is saying this? Who? I need a reference. I promise you, if anyone was actually saying something like this, it's some crazy fringe group who nobody seriously respects. Like they're probably quoting some rando on the street corner who drinks out of a paper bag and lives under a bridge, but claims to have 3 PhDs. One who promotes such views states they should have the right to express themselves sexually, which means that they may or may not have contact with people older than themselves. Another says, we believe children should begin sex at birth. It causes a lot of problems not to practice incest. Again, I need to remind you that Jehovah's Witnesses are reading and listening to crap like this on the regular, and they're highly repressed and highly suggestible. So let's say that there is a would-be predator in the congregation. If he or she is reading this and hearing this constantly at the meetings, it's almost like giving them ideas or lending credence to whatever fucked up ideas they already have. In reply to this, columnist Nancy Walker states that these sexologists should at least say what the real issue is, that they want to have sex with children. Time magazine said, such views fall just short of a manifesto for child molesters lib. So notice how they're attributing this to sexologists, as if to tar all with the same brush, as if all sexologists, whatever a sexologist is, agree with this crap. I guarantee you that that's not the case. But it does reinforce the notion that psychologists, counselors, sex therapists, and the like are not to be trusted if you're a Jehovah's Witness. One reason why practically every civilized society has had laws against sexual contact with children is the physical and psychological damage that can be done to them. Why, yes, Watchtower, That's true. So tell me again why you protect pedophiles and keep a database of them, but you don't report them to the authorities or warn the congregation about them? God, these people are revolting. Okay, next article is from The Awaken, 1982. It's entitled The New Morality. In both New York City and Los Angeles, some claim that boys are more in demand than girls. What? In Massachusetts, a call boy operation was discovered where 250 boys were available for sex, anywhere in the state for $50 and up. It turned out to be, however, only a branch of a national network headquartered in Houston, Texas. Hawks could call there from anywhere in the country and order chickens by telephone. Within half an hour, a boy would be at the caller's door, provided the Hawks credit card cleared. Somebody tell me how do these people claim to know so much about this crap? And why do they think that it's an appropriate subject for a family magazine? A religious magazine? I mean, I feel like we're in an episode of SVU or something here. This is really disturbing, and it's oddly specific too. So think about, again, our would-be predator at the Kingdom Hall now. What's to stop him or her from going out and trying to find this organization now? I mean, it might be totally made up, true, but what if it did exist? The Hawks have formed groups and demand respectability. The Renee Guyon organization, based in California, boasts 8,500 members. Their motto is, sex by 8 or it's too late. Numerous other man-boy sex organizations exist. Oh my God! Now they're giving out the names of the organizations? I mean, this is stupid and irresponsible and crazy. Lists are compiled that show where boys can be picked up in every state. Oh, maybe that's what their database is for. Because it darn sure wasn't for reporting to the authorities, and it wasn't for warning the congregations. I mean, one such organization has headquarters in London, with branches in the United States and other countries. I mean, they make it sound like these are legitimate legal entities conducting business as if they're McDonald's or Ace Hardware or something. I mean, all of these activities are illegal, people, for good reason. The homosexuals are pushing for changing the laws to lower the age of consent and to legalize sex between adults and children. They are fighting for children's rights, they say, and make themselves out to be crusaders. Guys, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but there is no massive homosexual conglomerate. There's no, gay agenda, much less one that's trying to influence legislation to legalize child rape. Most gay people are just as opposed to child molestation as straight people are. So this rhetoric that they're spreading here is not normal. It is not okay that they pair the mention of homosexuality with pedophilia and or bestiality every single fucking time. None of this is normal, okay? It's not. It's not okay. Child sexual abuse is not any kind of new morality, and no one considers it acceptable. No one. But if you thought this article was as bad as it was going to get, think again. It gets worse. Baby pros, or child prostitutes, are used and abused by pimps. In the Times Square area of New York City, 800 pimps control thousands and thousands of girls. Records disclose that hundreds and hundreds of these children have been brutalized, beaten, tortured, and raped by their pimps. Some prostitutes end up murdered. Yet prostitution is called a victimless crime. No. Regular prostitution, where consensual sex acts are paid for between adults, is called victimless, not child prostitution. And again, how do they know so much about the seedy underbelly of the prostitution scene? Inquiring minds want to know. Pornography dips into the even younger age brackets. Children as young as 3 and 4 years of age, who often end up in mental institutions or hustling on the streets, can be found doing unbelievable things in front of cameras. But if seeing is believing, then it must be believed because it is there to be seen in pornographic movies and magazines. Was someone at Bethel assigned to watch these videos in order to report on the ages and outcomes for the children they're talking about here? I mean, the writer implies that they've actually seen this. So wouldn't they then have to be disfellowshipped for pornea? I guess that depends on if anyone was watching it with them and whether they were touching their junk. I don't know. I mean, they should at least be reproved, right, for watching this? What the fuck? 5 and 6-year-olds are exploited, engaging in every imaginable sexual activity and perversion, including masturbation, sodomy, sadomasochism, and even incest. What the actual fuck is wrong with these people? Does anybody know? Why do they need to go into so much gratuitous detail? Carson, isn't that immoral? Totally immoral. Yeah, this is not moral. Not to a Jehovah's Witness, not to an everyday worldly person. People who do things like this to children are evil. Evil. And just about everybody in the world agrees with me on that. This isn't the new morality of the world as it's being presented. This is an outer fringe, completely illegal, absolutely unsanctioned set of activities. But I think what bothers me most about it is the completely gratuitous nature of it. They don't care how to prevent it or how to rescue these kids who are being trafficked. They couldn't possibly care less. They're just using it as a form of their same old Armageddon porn. Look how disgusting those worldly people are. And the underlying message is that if you ever leave the Watchtower, this is what'll happen to your kids. Sick. Fuck's sake, I need to change this subject. Let's get into one of their books. Happiness. How to find it. Millions of couples, including many retired persons, live together and have sex relations without marriage. Oh my. Even retired persons having sex relations? Among married persons, many have tried group sex, wife swapping, or open marriage, in which both mates agree to having sex outside of marriage. You know, just in case anyone on the planet didn't know what an open marriage was. And to clarify, do they mean many worldly people have tried these things or many Jehovah's Witnesses? Because I seem to remember hearing about a lot of disfellowshippings during the 70s and 80s over wife swapping. Ew. I mean, first of all, think about most of the people in your congregation and imagine that scene. Or let's not. Ugh. And then there's the misogynist nature of the words, even the words they're using here. Why don't they call it husband swapping, Because wife swapping denotes the submissive role of the woman. Okay, we have another quote here from further down in the same article. It is common in some lands for wealthy fathers to take their sons to prostitutes for education. Persons may feel that this is helpful, but it really is not, according to our Creator, who has observed all human experience. Maintaining chastity beforehand lays a far better groundwork for a happy marriage. I am not saying that it is wise to take a teenage boy to a prostitute for sex ed. That's a bit much even for me, but I disagree that complete chastity before marriage is in any way a good idea. Look, not one person I know would buy a car without test driving it first. Hell, half of y'all have to taste a spoonful of the ice cream flavor before you order it. Come on. Why in the world would you marry somebody, supposedly for the rest of your life, without making sure all the goods are there? What if they smell funny? What if the chemistry just isn't there? I mean, this can happen, particularly if your entire courtship has been closely chaperoned and you've never actually been within 3 feet of each other. Then what? Then we have this beautiful homage to pure, holy, godly matrimony. It's an article in the 1983 Watchtower called Honor Godly Marriage. So then, fornication in the broad sense evidently refers to a broad range of unlawful or illicit sex relations outside marriage. Porneia involves the grossly immoral use of the genital organs of at least one human, whether in a natural or perverted way. Also, there must have been another party to the immorality, a human of either sex or a beast. So what exactly makes a certain sexual encounter illicit? I mean, I guess they would consider everything illicit because their rules forbid literally almost everything of a sexual nature. But where is the line between normal use of the genital organs of at least one human and the grossly immoral use of those same genitals? I mean, what's the difference? Also, Jehovah's Witnesses must do a whole lot of animal humping because this seems to be coming up over and over. I mean, I wouldn't think that would be so common, but it's kind of starting to freak me out. Our next article is called Maintaining God's View of Sex from the Watchtower in 1983. And I freaking love this title because it makes me think that we're trying to make sure that Jehovah has a completely unobstructed view of all the kinky stuff that's going on down here. Surprisingly, some who have become involved in immoral conduct, such as bestiality, did not feel that what they did was really so bad. Yet having sexual connections with an animal is wrong. It is grounds for being disfellowshipped from the Christian congregation. Well, yeah, of course it's wrong. It's wrong because animals, like children, cannot consent to sexual activity because they do not have the mental capacity to do so. But do the Jehovah's Witnesses care about consent? No! Hell no they don't, because they think the worst thing that can happen is getting disfellowshipped. What is condemned by God in the Bible and is a disfellowshipping offense is the erotic activity or sexual behavior directed toward another person of one's own sex. Oh my. What about hermaphrodites, though? This activity or behavior does not necessarily have to be sodomy in order for it to constitute homosexuality. Any activity involving the genitals of at least one of these persons, such as kissing. Wait, kissing? Kissing doesn't involve anybody's genitals. And if they meant kissing the genitals, wouldn't they use their favorite term for that? Oral copulation? Fondling, rubbing one's sexual parts against another, or other such behavior designed to obtain sexual pleasure with another member of one's own sex is homosexuality. And while most people think of homosexuals as males, the term applies equally to females who carry on similar practices, though they are generally termed lesbians. Wow. They're so thorough, making sure that we all know exactly in detail what constitutes the disfellowshipping offense of homosexuality. Do they actually think that gay people have sex by rubbing their junk together? And can you define other such behavior? I mean, did they just put that in there to cover people's creativity? And look, they remembered to include women this time. I think it's amazing how they only remember to include women when they're talking about a disfellowshipping offense. I mean, normally it's all men this and men of faith that. It's none of this women stuff unless it's something you can get in trouble for. Persons who may have homosexual desires need to fight hard against them. At the same time, we should be careful that we do not become the victim of a person whose wrong desires may be getting the better of him. Okay, wait. So just because someone is attracted to someone of the same sex, all of a sudden they're also a predator? How do you figure? Like, how are those things related? Like, they're not. All of a sudden they're looking to victimize people? Seriously? At times, homosexual acts have been precipitated by things that in themselves are not wrong, such as the giving or accepting of back rubbing or of back washing in the shower. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on one cotton-picking second. Y'all, if there's another guy in the shower with you, I'm going to venture a guess that you're either gay or on a sports team. And since Jehovah's Witnesses aren't allowed to play organized sports, it's a safe bet that both parties in this particular scenario are interested parties. Or sometimes, persons will playfully wrestle and become aroused sexually. Oh my! There is a need for caution. Be aware that such activity can lead to, and on occasion has led to, homosexual acts, even among Christians. I'm not gay, so I can't say for sure, but I am reasonably certain that no one ever accidentally has sex of any kind, unless they're impaired in some way and they don't actually know what's going on. And that's a whole nother can of worms. Unless you have your own same-sex attractions, you're not going to just slip into homosexual activity. It's like, oh, I was walking past her in the grocery store and just, all of a sudden we were doing it. Why is it that some become involved in sexual offenses, in homosexuality, bestiality, peeping Tomism, and so forth? What is peeping Tomism? What are they doing in there? I mean, peeping Tomism? I think maybe they need a thesaurus, because they might have meant voyeurism, maybe? Peeping Tomism. It has been found that the minds of the offenders were on sex to a great extent. Sometimes they were avid readers of pornographic literature. Seemingly without exception, they were habitual masturbators. Pop quiz. What is the number one way to make sure that someone thinks about sex all the time? The answer: tell them that they are absolutely not allowed to have sex or think about sex. And then talk about it all the freaking time in unnecessarily graphic detail in the mandatory religious magazines and meetings that they have to attend. And you know what? At some time in their lives, literally everyone on earth is a habitual masturbator. You know why? Because masturbation is a normal human activity. A person who masturbates is putting improper emphasis on sex. He feeds and enlivens his sexual craving in a wrong way. No, I'm sorry. There's where you have it backwards. Masturbating, particularly for an adolescent, actually releases the pressure so he can think about something besides sex for a minute. Sex is all about hormones, chemicals in the body. It's not some kind of tragic morality play where good must conquer evil. Give me a break. Yet not only men are involved, there has been an increase in masturbation among women. Oh. No, I'm afraid you're wrong there too. There hasn't been an increase in masturbation among women. We're just allowed to talk about it now. Believe me, it's always been a thing. God, however, provided humans with a gift of sex to use within the arrangement of marriage. But a masturbator is using sex outside the marriage arrangement for personal gratification. Hey, baby, you want to use some sex? Such a person needs to deaden his sexual appetite in order to please God. So what makes them think that God is displeased by sexual appetites? Didn't God supposedly make the sexual appetites? So why would he be so against them? I mean, if he's so concerned with what we do with our dicks, vaginas, and buttholes, why did he even create them? I mean, why did he make it possible for us to do things with them? I mean, he's supposed to be all-knowing, so you could argue that he knew all along what we do with them. He needs to cultivate the self-control that is necessary to de-emphasize sex in his life and to leave his sexual organs to adjust to any pressures in the normal way. What normal way? Oh, maybe it's those nocturnal emissions you shamed boys for in the youth book. So then, in 1987, they gave us this fabulous example. In the Watchtower, 1987, in an article entitled, "Breathing This World's Air is Death-Dealing." We're not even supposed to breathe now? Where do we find Watchtower-approved air? What common attitudes might we begin to adopt, even before we realize it, because of the strong influence of this world's air? One is the inclination to toy with things immoral. This world's ideas on sex and morality are all around us. Many say it's all right to commit fornication, bear children out of wedlock, and practice homosexuality. We're just doing what's normal, natural. Oh yeah, baby, let's commit fornication. I can't wait to bear some children out of wedlock with you. Hey, Jeannie, you want to come over and practice homosexuality with me on Saturday? Nobody talks like this. Ever. Has this air or worldly spirit affected Jehovah's people? Unfortunately, during the 1986 service year, 37,426 had to be disfellowshipped from the Christian congregation, the greater number of them for practicing sexual immorality. And this does not include the even higher number reproved for immorality, but not disfellowshipped because they were sincerely repentant. Oh, please. As if being sincerely repentant has anything to do with whether or not you get disfellowshipped. Our next article is from the Watchtower in 1989 and is entitled "Perfecting Holiness in God's Fear." Furthermore, in Israel, laws imposed limits on sexual activities even within the marriage bond. A husband was to refrain from having relations with his wife during her menstrual period. This required loving consideration and self-control on the part of the Israelite menfolk. I don't actually think that Middle Eastern goat herders were particularly loving or considerate, considering that they actually literally bought and sold women on the regular. I think the real deal was that they were terrified of menstruation, as many men still are today. Should Christians be any less considerate of their wives? The Apostle Peter says that Christian husbands should dwell with their wives according to knowledge, that is, knowledge of their makeup as a weaker vessel, the feminine one. Look, assholes, I'm gonna lay it on the line for you. Having a period does not make you weak. I don't know very many men who could do what we do every month, never mind pregnancy and childbirth. Now, my husband's a pretty tough guy, and he almost passed out watching our sons be born. There is no equivalent for men. None. And if men had periods, they'd get the whole week off every month with extra benefits. Also, this might shock you. Get your pearls ready. But some women and men actually enjoy having sex during the red tide. I love how they word this, though, that these Israelite men folks exercised self-control by not just humping their wives any old time they felt like it. Let's give them a gold star. Another funny thing about this, human fertility is a really amazing thing. So we went through some fertility treatments to get pregnant the first time, and I learned a lot about this particular subject. I mean, a lot. And it's amazing that conception actually happens at all, really. People would have you believe that you can get pregnant at the drop of a hat. And that might be true for some of y'all fertile myrtles out there, but for others, it definitely isn't. And some women actually bleed when they ovulate. So most people, women included, can't always tell the difference between an ovulatory period and an anovulatory bleed. So by never ever having sex, if there's blood present, some people are actually ensuring that they never get pregnant without knowing it. I wonder how many of the Bible's barren women were actually ovulatory bleeders. Oh, you feeling a little grossed out? Okay, maybe it's time to stop for this episode. Anyway, check back next time for episode number, what number are we on? 5? Sex in the Watchtower. Until then, I'm Sister Fister. This is crazy.